Hello friends, about 99% of friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and helps the channel grow. Also, let me know in the comments from which country you are watching the video. You ever felt the kind of fear that don't hit you all at once, but crawls up your spine like a cold hand taking its sweet time? I ain't talking the kind you get watching a scary movie or walking past a dark alley. I'm talking real fear. Fear that soaks into your bones and sits heavy in your gut like spoiled meat. That's the kind of fear I met out on I-44 just outside Missouri one night back in 2018. Now, before I start, let me just say this. I've been driving trucks over 20 years. I've seen it all. Fog that makes you blind. Drivers high as satellites. Animals running out of nowhere. Even bodies on the side of the road from wrecks so bad it makes you rethink every decision you ever made. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what I ran into that night. So there I was, hauling a load of industrial freezers from Oklahoma City heading up to a warehouse in St. Louis. Just a regular run. Pay was decent and dispatch. Didn't sound distressed about the ETA. I like driving at night. Always have. Roads are quieter, less stress, more time to think. But the second I hit that stretch of I-44, I felt it. I know how this sounds. But the air changed, like the sky itself was holding its breath. Ain't no wind, no bugs hitting the windshield, no radio static, just dead silence. Like I was driving through a vacuum. I checked my mirrors, glanced at my gauges, made sure I didn't blow a line or drop pressure. Everything was fine mechanically, but my stomach was churning. Then I saw her, a woman standing on the shoulder, pale skin, long black hair hanging over her face, and one arm raised like she was trying to hitch a ride. Nothing new, folks try to hitch rides all the time, especially near towns. But something was off. Her feet weren't touching the ground. I swear on everything I got. She was floating a couple inches above the asphalt. I blinked, gripped the wheel tighter, rubbed my eyes, and when I looked again, she was gone. Just vanished. No car, no footprints, no sign of life. I hit the CB, asked if any drivers saw what I did. Dead silence, not even background chatter. That was the first red flag. I figured maybe I was tired, needed coffee. So I pulled into the next rest stop about 15 miles up. It was one of those old rundown stops with flickering lights and busted vending machines. I parked, shut off the engine, and stepped out. The minute my boots hit the gravel, the smell hit me. Rot. Like dead animal, wet fur, and maggots. But worse, sharper, unnatural. Like something trying to rot that ain't supposed to. I walked around the trailer, checked my tires and brakes, trying to ignore the smell. Then I heard it, a whisper real low, right behind my ear. Don't stop here. I spun around. Nothing. Nobody. Just the hiss of my air brakes settling. I ain't no coward. But I jumped back into that cab so fast, you'd think the devil himself was after me. I fired up the engine and peeled out, gravel spitting under my tires. Whatever was out there, it didn't want me stopping, and maybe I should have listened, because from that moment on, the road ahead turned into hell. I got back on the highway, hands shacking on the wheel, trying to convince myself it was just nerves. Maybe a mix of sleep deprivation and too much bad diner coffee. But the whisper hadn't just been in my head. It was too clear, too pointed. Don't stop here. It sounded like it came from right behind me. Like someone sitting in the jump seat leaned in real close. I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting to see someone ridden back there. But I was alone, or at least I thought I was. The road stretched ahead, a ribbon of black slick with fresh rain that hadn't even been in the forecast. I turned on the wipers and watched them smear the windshield, like they were trying to wipe away blood. I'm not even joking. The rain wasn't clear. It had a reddish tint to it, like rust or old scabbed over wounds. It was barely nothing, but it set my nerves on fire. I glanced down at my dash, and that's when I noticed my clock had reset. No time, just dashes. My GPS blinked out too. Frozen on the last rest stop I'd left behind. No signal, no direction. Like I was driving into a void. I figured I must have blown a fuse or hit a dead zone. But then I realized something else. There were no other cars on the road. Not one headlight, not one tail light, no distant glow of oncoming traffic. I was surrounded by total darkness and empty pavement. I slowed down, feeling the buzz of tension between my shoulder blades. And then the radio kicked on. But it wasn't music or dispatch chatter, it was a child's voice. Whispering over static, just a single sentence on loop. You're already dead. Over and over. You're already dead. You're already dead. I grabbed the knob and cranked it off. But the sound kept going. Even with the radio shut down, unplugged. The voice kept whispering like it was combing through the speakers in my own head. That's when I saw her again. Same woman from before. Now standing right in the middle of my lane. This time I had no chance to swerve. I slammed the brakes, tires screeching against wet asphalt, and the truck jackknifed just enough to make me think I was about to flip. But when I came to a dead stop, she was gone again. Not a trace. No impact. Nothing. On the grill, I jumped out, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear the rain. Checked under the truck, around the trailer, even looked back up the road with my flashlight. There was nobody there. Just the smell again, that rot. Stronger now, burning in my throat like a warning. I stood there, soaked to the bone, shacking with adrenaline. And that's when I noticed the highway was different. The signs were gone. The lines on the road were faded or twisted, looping back in ways that didn't make sense. I got back in the cab and drove on, hoping I'd break out of whatever nightmare pocket I'd fallen into. But the more I drove, the more twisted things got. The mile markers started counting backward. 212, 211, 210. Then they skipped to 999, and my headlights dimmed like something was feeding off the juice. I passed the same tree 3 times, a gnarled old thing with a tire swing blowing in wind. That didn't exist. I'm telling you right now, I wasn't on Earth no more. I was driving through someone else's memory. Or maybe a trap built for souls too stubborn to stop driving. And I wasn't alone. Because not long after that, I saw lights behind me in the mirror. Not headlights, lanterns. Dozens of them, floating midair. And I swear, I could see shapes carrying them. Long-armed, crooked, barely human. Like old highwaymen made of shadows and bone. They was gaining on me, and I knew if they caught up, I wasn't gonna make it out. So I did. What any old trucker would, I floored it and prayed I had enough diesel to outrun the dead. I ain't ashamed to admit it, I was scared out of my damn mind. I jammed the throttle, felt the rig lurch forward with everything it had, engine screaming like it knew this wasn't a normal haul. Those lanterns behind me didn't flicker or fade. They stayed steady, closing in smooth like a funeral procession, floating low and slow, yet somehow gaining on me no matter how fast I pushed. I was doing 85 in a truck not built for speed, tires hydroplaning over, slick asphalt, and still they crept closer. I leaned on the horn, not cause I thought it'd help, but because I needed to remind myself I was still alive, still in control. The blare cut through the night, but it didn't echo. It got swallowed up, like the dark was feeding on sound. I looked down and saw my speedometer blink then go dead. All the needles dropped, dash lights out, engine still running. But the cab turned cold, breath visible cold. My breath fogged the windshield, even with the defroster on full. Then I saw at a turnoff I'd never seen before. No sign, just a narrow exit ramp that led down into black trees and fog. And every instinct I had screamed at me to take it, not because I thought it was safe, but because I knew those things behind me didn't follow rules. They weren't bound to the same roads I was. They moved like thoughts. I jerked the wheel and took the exit, the whole rig groaning like it hated the idea. The road twisted sharp, barely wide enough for me. Branches scraping the sides of my trailer like fingers dragging across a coffin lid. I kept going. Tires slamming into potholes, mud splashing up and covering the windshield. But I didn't stop. I couldn't, not even when I saw the figure step out in front of me again. She was clearer this time, pale, hollow eyes. Her jaw hung wrong, like it had been broken and never set right. She raised both hands this time, not to hitch, but like she was warning me, or trying to stop me. I clenched my teeth and braced, but the second my headlights hit her full on, she split into dozens of birds, black, silent, flapping hard against the cab before vanishing into the night. I shouted out loud, not words, just raw panic. I don't remember macking the next turn. I don't remember slowing down. But the next thing I knew, I was parked, engine off, in front of a diner that wasn't on any map I'd ever seen. Earl's Eats, the neon sign said, buzzing and half burnt out. But the inside was lit, warm, like a photo from another time. And people, real people, sat inside, eating, drinking, laughing. It didn't make no sense. But I needed to breathe. I needed to feel human again. So I got out, walked inside, and the moment I opened the door, the bell rang, and everyone stopped talking. All eyes turned to me, like they'd been waiting, like they knew. One old man in a booth tipped his hat and said, "Took you long. Enough, driver. You're late." My skin crawled. I looked around, trying to find anything normal. But every face in that place, they looked perfect, like mannequins that learned how to blink. The waitress stepped forward, notepad in hand, and smiled real wide. "Table for one?" she asked, her voice a weird echo, like to people speaking at once. I backed up. I just need to use the phone," I said. She pointed to a payphone in the back near the restrooms. I headed that way, passing by booths that smelled like flowers and fresh earth like a funeral home. I picked up the receiver, but there was no dial tone, just static. Then, through the static, came that same child's voice. "You're already dead." I dropped the phone and turned around fast. But the diner was empty. No waitress, no customers. Chairs upside down on tables, plates covered in dust. I hadn't been in a living place. I'd stepped into a memory, or a trap. I bolted for the door, but it wouldn't open, locked from the inside. And that's when I saw the mirror behind the counter. My reflection wasn't mine. It was the woman, her face, her mouth smiling back at me. I stumbled backward, heart hammering so hard I thought it was gonna rip out of my chest. That reflection that wasn't just some trick of the light. It moved before I did, grinning at me with that broken jaw hanging loose like it was unhinged on purpose. Her eyes were hollow, to deep pits that sucked in the light around them. And for a split second, I swear she whispered through the glass, "This is where the road ends." I turned, grabbed a chair, and slammed it against the door until the glass shattered. Cold air hit me in the face like I'd been holding my breath underwater, and finally broke the surface. I didn't stop, didn't look back. I sprinted to the truck, climbed in, and locked the doors like that was gonna do a damn thing against whatever was out here. I fired up the engine, hands trembling on the ignition, and to my surprise, she started. Lights, gauges, everything came back online, like nothing had happened. But I knew something had. I threw her in gear and pulled out of the lot, headlights cutting through a wall of mist that hadn't been there before. The road in front of me wasn't the one I'd come in on. It was narrow, barely paved, and lined with old telephone poles that leaned like tired old men. The wires above me buzzed low, making a sound like bees trapped in a jar. I didn't care where it led. I just wanted out. 10 miles later, the GPS flickered to life. I nearly cried when I saw the map return. The little blue triangle pointed north again. Only problem was the map was blank. No names, no road numbers. Just a black void with my truck in the middle of it, like I was the only thing left in existence. I tapped the screen, tried to zoom in, zoom out, reset it, nothing worked. The voice from the GPS, normally some calm lady telling me, when the turn came on with a warbled static edge and said, "Destination, nowhere." And that was it. Silence. I kept driving, hoping the world would snap back into place. Hoping I'd see a town, a gas station, a single damn sign of life. That's when the fog ahead shifted and I saw the truck. It was just like mine. Same make, same color, same trailer. Sitting in the middle of the road, engine off, doors open, like someone left it in a hurry. I slowed down, cautious. My headlights sweeping across the chrome and reflecting off the license plate. And that's what froze my blood. The plate number was mine. That truck was mine. Down to the little sticker I peeled off the back corner of the windshield months ago. But how? I looked around, every instinct screaming at me not to stop. But I had to know. I pulled up alongside it, engine idling, and leaned out my window. "Anybody there?" I shouted. No answer. Just wind rustling through the trees, or what I thought were trees. They weren't trees. They were figures, dozens of them, tall, thin, their heads tilted at unnatural angles, watching from the edge of the woods, not moving, just watching. I threw the truck back into gear, didn't even check my mirrors, and took off down the road. The further I got, the colder it got. The radio kicked back on all on its own. But now it was playing a song I hadn't heard since I was a kid. A lullaby my mama used to hum when I'd get scared of thunder. It was her voice, singing real soft, real slow, and right behind it, under the hum, I could hear crying, a man sobbing, and then I realized it was me. I was listening to a recording of my own voice, crying like a child, pleading for help. And over all of it, the whisper returned, low and calm. "You're already dead." I turned off the radio, ripped the knob right out of the dash. But the sound kept going, echoing inside the cab like it was coming from the vents, the walls, even the air itself. And that's when I knew this wasn't just a haunted road. This was a trap, a loop, a stretch of cursed highway that don't let go once it's got ya. And it had me. I wish I could tell you I just floored it and somehow made it out. But it wasn't that simple. The more I drove, the less sense the road made. Turns that shouldn't have been there. Slopes that went up but made me feel like I was sinking. And the sky, it was getting darker. But not like nighttime dark. It was thick, like the clouds were made of ash and smoke, rolling and slow and heavy. My headlights barely cut through it anymore. It was like I was driving underwater, like just dying in the air a few feet ahead. And every so often, just out of the corner of my eye, I'd see someone sitting in my passenger seat. Never clear, just a shadow. But every time I turned to look, it had vanished. The smell in the cab started changing, too. First it was that rot-again wet meat and mold, but then it turned sweet, like candy, like melted sugar, and then burnt hair. Like whatever this place was, it couldn't decide how to scare me. So it was throwing every scent it had at the wall to see what stuck. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles white, telling myself this wasn't real, that it was some stress-induced hallucination or a gas leak or carbon monoxide or something. But I knew better. I'd been driving long enough to know when something was off. This wasn't exhaustion. This wasn't fumes. This was evil. Pure and simple, highway born and bred. I passed another sign then, except it wasn't a highway marker. It was a wooden post with carvings on it, like runes, maybe. Not English. Not any language I'd ever seen. Just scratched symbols that looked angry. Fresh, too, like they were still bleeding sap. The lights in the cab flickered again, and the windshield fogged over from the inside. I reached to wipe it, and when I did, I saw a face on the glass. Not mine. Hers. That same woman. Her eyes. Wide, mouth open like she was screaming. But no sound came through. Just the press of her hands on the inside of the glass. Like she was trapped in it. Like she was the one driving now and I was just the reflection. I jerked the wheel without thinking, and the whole rig swerved. I barely avoided jackknifing. Trailer fish-tailed and swung into a ditch, slapping against the mud with a loud thud that rattled my bones. I got it back under control somehow, breath and heart jackhammering. That's when the lights went out. Not just my truck's lights, all of them. No dash lights. No road lights. Not even the moon. It was like the world blinked. Total black. My engine still ran, but I couldn't see a damn thing. I rolled to a stop, trying not to hyperventilate. I reached for my flashlight, popped open the door, and stepped out into a silence so deep it felt alive. The kind that presses on your ears like pressure underwater. I clicked the flashlight on. It barely lit more than 5 feet ahead. The fog had thickened around the truck like smoke from a fire that never burned out, and they're right at the edge of the beam. I saw them. The same long, crooked shadows I'd seen earlier, closer now, real now. And they weren't watching no more. They were moving, slow and jerky, like broken puppets on invisible strings. I climbed back into the cab, fast, slammed the door, locked it, and just sat there, heart hammering, listening to the sound of their feet on the gravel. Click, click, drag, click. They circled the truck. I could hear their hands sliding along the sides of the trailer, long nails ticking against metal like claws. One of them climbed up onto the step outside the door. I heard it settle there. Then a handprint bloomed on the side window. A human hand, but bloated, pale, with fingers too long. It just stayed there, not moving, as if it was waiting for me to do something, waiting for me to break. I stared back, lips barely whispering, "Please, just let me go." But deep down I knew this place didn't let go. Once you were caught in its loop, you were part of it, just like the woman, just like the other truck, just like whoever cried through the damn radio. I wasn't on a highway anymore. I was in a graveyard that never stopped moving, and my rig, it was the coffin. I sat there in that cab with the engine humming low and that pale hand still pressed to the glass, my breath fogging up the inside, while something breathed just as heavy on the outside. I didn't dare move. I didn't blink. Every instinct I had told me not to acknowledge it. Don't react. Don't look it in the eyes if it had eyes. But you ever try ignoring something staring at you from 2 feet away, begging for attention in the quietest way imaginable? That silence, the wait, it ain't natural. It's like the world holding its breath before screaming in your face. And then just like that it was gone, the handprint vanished. No footsteps away, no shadow retreating, just gone. Like it was never there. But the damage was done. I was rattled to the core. I couldn't tell you how long I sat there before I worked up the nerve to move. Time didn't exist out here anymore. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like I'd been trapped for days. I reached for the glove box, pulling out my old .45, the one I'd carried with me since back when truck stops used to be a lot more dangerous from people than ghosts. I didn't think a gun would help me out of this hell, but I needed something to hold on to, something that made me feel like I still had some kind of control. I started her back up and inched forward slow. The road had changed again. No lines, no shoulders, just narrow pavement cutting through a forest that looked older than time itself. The trees leaned in overhead like arches in a church, bark, black as soot, and leaves that whispered words I couldn't make out. And on the side of the road, I kept seeing signs nailed to the trunks, not metal ones, wooden, hand-carved. Letters all jagged and crooked, like they were scratched in with blood-soaked fingernails. Turn back. It's too late. You're next. And one that stopped me cold. This is where I died. That one was nailed to a tree right across from a rusted-out truck cab. That looked damn near identical to mine. I slowed down, rolled the window a crack, and listened. Nothing. Not wind. Not crickets. Not frogs. Just the pressure again. That wrongness. The fog thickened as I crept past it. The road turning slick with moisture that wasn't rain, but felt alive somehow. My wheels started humming, that strange vibration again, like the asphalt was humming back at me. And then through the haze up ahead I saw a movement. Something crawling across the road, not walking, crawling, like it was dragging itself. I braked hard and flicked on the high beams, squinting through the glare, and missed. It was a man, or what was left of one. No legs, just a torso. Arms pulling him slow across the pavement. His head lifted, skin slack. Hollow sockets where his eyes should have been. And his mouth opened wide like a scream. But the sound that came out was me. My own voice. Crying for help. Begging. Pleading. The same sobs I'd heard on that cursed radio. I slammed the gear shift and swerved around him, barely staying on the road. But I couldn't run him over. I didn't know what had happened if I touched whatever the thing was. But I sure as hell didn't want to find out. As I passed, I looked in the mirror. Big mistake. The road behind me was gone. The forest closed in behind my trailer like jaws. Shutting. No way back. Only forward. And up ahead. For the first time in hours, maybe longer, I saw a light. A real one. Not lanterns. Not illusions. A gas station. Old. Flickering neon buzzing in the dark like a lighthouse in a sea of ghosts. Phillips 66. It said. The kind they don't even make anymore. I pulled in. Tires crunching gravel that looked too red to be right. Like dried blood. I parked, engine idling. Not ready to turn her off just yet. I stepped out slow. Boots hitting the ground heavy. The place looked abandoned. Windows covered in grime. Door slightly open. I stepped inside and the bell jingled overhead, same exact tone as the one back at Earl's Eats. I froze. The store was dark, but I could make out shelves full of dusty snacks, drinks decades expired. A jar of pickled eggs that looked like eyeballs floating in bile. And at the back counter an old man, bald, wrinkled, eyes shut tight like he was sleeping or praying. Then he spoke, without opening his mouth. You shouldn't have come this far, son. I backed up, heart pounding again. What is this place? I asked. His lips never moved, but I heard him, clear as day. This ain't a place. It's a judgment, and you've been found wanting. I stood there frozen, the words sinking into my gut like ice water. A judgment, found wanting. What the hell did that mean? I ain't never killed no one. Never did nothing that'd earn a sentence like that. Sure, I got regrets. Hell, any man living past 40 got regrets. But this felt like a punishment for something I didn't understand. The old man didn't move. Didn't even twitch. His eyes stayed shut, mouth sealed tight. But the voice filled the room like it was coming from the walls themselves. You kept driving when others would have stopped. You ignored the signs. You passed the dead and left them behind. I stepped closer, my boots crunching on the cracked linoleum. What the hell are you talking about? I didn't do nothing to nobody. The lights overhead flickered once, then died. The only glow now came from behind the counter, where the old man sat like a statue carved out of regret. Then, all at once, every cooler door in the store swung open with a loud slam, one after the other. Bam, bam, bam. Inside each one wasn't soda or beer, it was me. Dozens of me, all looking different. One with a broken nose, one with no eyes, one soaked in blood from the waist down, one staring right at me, hand pressed to the glass, just like the woman earlier. All of them screaming without sound, faces twisted in pain, like reflections from timelines I never lived but maybe could have, or did. I turned back to the counter. The old man was gone, just as where he'd been. Then, from the speaker, above the cash register, that same child's whisper returned. You're already dead. I couldn't take it anymore. I bolted for the door, pushing out into the night like a man running from hell itself. The air outside was heavy now, thick like tar. The truck my lifeline sat humming in the lot, headlights dim, like she was waiting for me to hurry up and leave. I climbed in, slammed the door, locked it, and put her in gear. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to move. The tires spun a second, kicking gravel, then grabbed hold and pulled us back onto the road. But it wasn't the same road anymore. The sky above me had no stars. The moon was just a smear, like a thumbprint on glass. And the trees, they weren't trees now. They were people, or what used to be people. hung up like decorations along the roadside, eyes black and mouths sewn shut. They swayed as I passed, heads twitching like they were following me. I pressed harder on the paddle, needed distance, needed light. Up ahead, I spotted a tunnel. Didn't remember a tunnel being on this stretch. But at this point, nothing surprised me anymore. It was old, stone lined, moss covered, like it had been carved into the earth by ancient hands. And above the archway, someone had etched 3 words in jagged letters, only the guilty. I didn't stop. I drove straight in. The moment my rig crossed the threshold, all sound cut out. No engine, no tires, no breath, just void. The only thing I could hear was my own heartbeat, and even that sounded like it wasn't really mine anymore. The walls inside pulsed like veins. I ain't kidding. They moved, beat with a rhythm that didn't match time on Earth. Red light spilled from cracks above, and the deeper I drove, the more my truck groaned like she was in pain. Like the road itself was hurting her. My hands felt glued to the wheel. Couldn't let go even if I wanted to. And that's when I saw the figures in the tunnel. They weren't ghosts. They weren't demons. They were drivers, men and women, just like me, still in their seats, still gripping their wheels. Eyes wide open, mouths open wider, screaming silently forever. Their trucks sat frozen in the tunnel walls like they'd been driven straight into the stone and absorbed. My heart nearly stopped when I saw one I recognized, Frank, an old buddy of mine from Texas. We'd done dozens of runs together. He'd gone missing 3 years ago. Everyone figured he just vanished into the wind like some drivers do. But there he was, mouth hanging open, face pale, still wearing the dumb John Deere cap. I wanted to call out, wanted to stop, but I couldn't. My hands wouldn't move. My foot stayed on the gas like it was glued there by something older than time. The tunnel stretched on, no end in sight. And then the voice returned, not over the radio, not from the mirrors, from inside me. You don't get to leave. You brought this on yourself. I don't know how to explain it, but that voice, it didn't sound like just one person. It was 100 voices layered together, all speaking in unison, some whispering, some screaming. And one of them, God help me, one of them sounded like me. I felt my chest tighten like something was squeezing my heart from the inside. My vision started to tunnel, dark creeping in from the corners of my eyes. But the rig kept going, like she was being pulled forward by a hook buried deep in the grill. The lights inside the tunnel flickered dimmer and dimmer until they finally gave out, and I was driving blind. The only light coming from some unseen red glow way down in the depths ahead, like a sun that had long since died but still refused to go cold. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. I tried to turn the wheel, slam the brakes, do anything, but I wasn't in control anymore. The truck wasn't mine. My hands moved, sure, but not for me. They turned the wheel slow and deliberate, like something was using me like a puppet, guiding me towards something it had been waiting for. I started to hear things behind me, heavy breaths, nails scratching against metal, the squeak of the sleeper cab mattress like someone or something was shifting around back there. I didn't look. I couldn't. I knew if I turned around, I'd see her sitting there. The woman, the one from the road, the one who'd been haunting my mirrors and fogged up windows. And if I saw her up close, if I met her eyes, I knew I would never come back. But even without looking, I felt her cold breath on the back of my neck, her voice, not in my ears, but in my bones. You didn't stop. Then the tunnel ended, just like that. One moment I was wrapped in darkness, and the next, the rig burst out into what looked like daylight, but it wasn't. The sky overhead was red and black, swirling like an open wound. The road beneath me was cracked and stretching in ways it shouldn't, twisting through a landscape that looked scorched and wrong. Trees stood leafless and twisted, bent like they'd been tortured, and the hills rose and fell like the back of some giant buried beneath the earth. I didn't recognize this place. This wasn't any stretch of I-44 or Route 66 or nothing else I'd ever driven. It was nowhere. And then, up ahead, I saw the sign. Just one. Sticking up out of the blackened soil at a crossroads where the pavement split 3 ways. The sign had no arrows, no miles listed, just a word carved deep and burned into the wood. Stay. That was it. Just a stay. I slowed to a crawl. Engine coughing like it was running out of strength. I stopped the rig right there at the intersection, and for the first time in what felt like days, I let go of the wheel. My hands were red, not blood burns. Blistered palms from holding on too long. I slumped back in the seat, chest heaving, eye stinging. I didn't know what to do. Left, right, straight. None of the roads looked safer than the others. They all led deeper into the dead. And behind me, I didn't even want to think about what was following. Then, the sleeper curtain behind me moved. Not from wind, not from the road. It moved like someone pulled it aside, slow and careful, trying not to startle me. And I heard that same whisper, right against my ear. Pick a road, driver, or I'll pick you. I sat there frozen, staring at that intersection while every nerve in my body screamed to move. But I couldn't. My muscles were locked tight, not from fear, no. This was deeper than that. This was the kind of paralysis that comes from something ancient pressing down on you. Like being in the presence of a god you ain't never prayed to. The 3 roads stretched out like veins from a heart that never stopped beating. To the left, the pavement crumbled into gravel and vanished. Into a thick forest that looked more like a mass graveyard of trees. Each one twisted like it had been trying to crawl away. To the right, a steep incline wound up a mountainside covered in fog. And from the direction I could see lights, dozens of them moving in a circle. Flickering light candles in the hands of mourners. And straight ahead, just blacktop. Dead straight, flat, not a bump or turn for as far as the eye could see. But the sky above it swirled, faster than before, like a storm was building. Except the clouds weren't clouds, they were faces. Faces stretching out and opening, their mouths wide in silent screams. Behind me, the sleeper curtain fluttered again. I didn't turn. I wouldn't turn. But I felt her get closer. I could hear the creak of the mattress, the slow shift of weight like she was leaning forward, and that breath cold, steady, right against the back of my neck. Pick one, she whispered. Calm as still water. You don't get to sit. Forever. I swallowed hard, mouth dry as desert sand. Where do they go? I asked. My voice didn't even sound like mine anymore, just air passing through a cracked funnel. They go where you made them lead, she said, each roads. A truth. One you've earned. I stared straight ahead, the black top, the screen-filled clouds. Something in me said the way was final, no turning back, no salvation. The left. That forest. It felt wrong, but not final, more like purgatory. The kind you suffer through for years and never find the end. And the right, toward that mountain. The lights, the way they moved it, felt like a place where things waited, not dead. Not alive. Just waiting. I didn't do nothing wrong. I whispered. I'm just a driver. Just a man trying to make a living. The cab filled, with a sound that wasn't quite laughter. It was deep, vibrating, like amusement from the mouth of a canyon. You passed the wreck and didn't stop. Remember, she said. That boy was still breathing. You heard him. My blood ran cold. I had heard someone. That night outside. Amarillo. Wrecked car off the shoulder. Rain pouring so hard you could barely see past the hood. I slowed down, saw the hazard lights blinking. But dispatch was written me hard that night. Said I was late. Said the customer was threatening to cancel. So I kept going. Told myself someone else would stop. You chose speed over a soul. She hissed. And now your road chooses you. My eyes burned. I gripped the wheel. I didn't know he was still alive. I didn't know. But you heard him, she said again, voice soft and sad. You knew. I slammed the gas. Without thinking, and the rig lurched forward. I wasn't picking the forest. I wasn't climbing that mountain to wait in the fog with the lost. I was going straight, full throttle into whatever was coming, if I was already damned. Then I was gonna meet it head on, not crawl to it. With my tail between my legs, The moment I passed the sign, the sky cracked open, split. Like glass under a hammer. Red lightning lit the clouds of faces, and the road turned to mirror under my wheels, reflecting everything: the rig, the sky, and the thing ridden on top of my trailer. I caught it in the mirror, pale, bent backward, long arms stretching down the sides. Its face smashed flat against the roof like it was trying to crawl through the metal. And then she was gone from the sleeper. I felt the weight shift, the cold vanish. But I knew she wasn't gone. She was closer. You chose. Her voice echoed inside the cab. Now let the road show you where it ends. The rig barreled down that road like it had a mind of its own. Tires screaming against the smooth mirror glass that stretched into the horizon. The farther I drove, the more the world stopped making sense. The sky above didn't just swirl. Anymore it spiraled, like water draining into a hole too deep to measure. And those faces, they started combing down closer, stretching longer, mouths open wider, but never making a single sound. Just watching, just judging. The thing on top of my trailer, hell, I don't even know how to describe it. I saw its shadow in the mirror stretching far beyond the truck, longer than the whole damn highway. Moving like it had 100 legs but made no noise. It clung to the roof like rock, its hands creeping down the sides like it was looking for a way in. I gripped the wheel tighter and hit the pedal harder, engine roaring like a beast trying to outrun its own cage. And for a second, just one damn second, I thought maybe I could beat it. Maybe I could outrun whatever this was, break through whatever barrier this place had built for me. But then the mirror cracked. A hairline fracture right down the center, not the side mirror of the road. I watched it split beneath me like a spider web on ice, and suddenly, I wasn't driving anymore. I was found. The road vanished, the truck plummeted into blackness, and the rig, my old girl, my only damn lifeline, screamed like she was alive, like she knew this was the end. Gravity twisted, my stomach rose into my throat, and the wind, there wasn't any. Just silence. Pure, smothering silence. Then we hit, not the ground, not the bottom, something. It was soft and wet and too alive. Like landing in the chest of some sleeping thing that woke up. Angry. The cab crunched. Glass exploded. The lights blew out. But I didn't die. I should have. But I didn't. I opened my eyes to red light glowing around me, thick and pulsing. I was no longer in the truck. I was in a hallway, a long, narrow hallway with walls made of meat. Yeah, you heard me right. Meat, veins pulsing, floor squishing underfoot, breathing in and out like lungs surrounding me. And hanging from the ceiling more drivers, all of them, trapped in cocoons made of wire and bone, twitching, moaning, some crying softly. And every single one of them looked right at me as I passed. Their eyes begged me to help, but I couldn't move faster, couldn't even look away. Because at the end of the hall stood her, the woman, pale as a sheet, eyes blacker than the void I fell through. Mouth sewn shut now like she'd said everything she needed to say. She raised her hand slow, and I swear to God, I felt it push against my chest. Not physically, but inside. Like she was squeezing my soul between her fingers. She pointed past me, back toward the hallway, and I turned. I shouldn't have turned, but I did. Behind me stood every man I'd ever passed up, every wreck I didn't stop for, every cry I ignored. All those years I told myself I was just a driver, just doing my job, just following the line and staying on time. They were all here. Their eyes burned with betrayal, their faces twisted with what I'd never seen, truth. And when they opened their mouths, it wasn't to scream. It was to say one word, all at once, loud, deafening, guilty. The hallway roared, the walls pulsed, the woman vanished, and everything went dark, again, but not gone. I woke up sitting in my cab, parked on the shoulder of a normal-looking road, no fog, no blood sky, just highway. Like nothing had happened, birds chirping, sun rising, and for a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, it had all been a dream. One long, drawn-out nightmare. But then I looked in the mirror and saw her sitting in my sleeper. Not moving, not speaking, just watching. And the CB crackled to life. A voice came through. "Breaker 19, you out there, big rig." I picked up the mic, hands shacking. "I'm here," I said. "Go ahead." The voice on the other end was calm, flat, familiar. "You got another chance, driver. But the road remembers, and it's still hungry." Then silence. Total dead air. I sat there, breathing heavy, hand white-knuckled on the mic. And I knew this wasn't over. It never would be. I'd been marked. The highway had tasted me. And one day, it was gonna call me back. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I started driving again, foot to the pedal, eyes on the horizon, like if I just kept moving forward, I could outrun the memories. But let me tell you something, friend, you don't outrun the highway. Not this one, not when it's already got your scent. The next few days passed like molasses. Clear roads, rest stops, gas stations where the coffee was hot, and the folks behind the counter looked me in the eye like I was still just a man and not some husk that had scraped its way back out of hell. But every mile I drove, I felt it following. I'd see her sometimes, not clearly, just a flicker in the mirror or a shape standing still in the breakdown lane, looking like she wanted to hitch a ride but never stuck her thumb out. And my radio, it had chirped with static, short bursts that sounded almost like words, just enough to make my skin crawl. And the GPS never worked again. Didn't matter what rig I drove or what device I used. Every screen just showed the little blue triangle sitting in a blank void, like I was driving on the edge of the known world. I tried telling someone once, another driver, guy named Red I met at a diner in Missouri. Swap stories over. Coffee. I hinted at it, just enough to test the waters. And that's when he looked up, eyes gone dead serious, and said, "You been down the hollow stretch, ain't ya?" I froze. "What did you say, the hollow stretch?" he repeated, setting his mug down slow. "Between places, a road that don't show up on maps, ain't got no markers, shows itself to drivers who got something weighing on 'em. Guilt, shame, secrets. You seen it?" I asked. His face went pale. "I didn't see it," he said, "but I heard it. Got off lucky." CB started screaming nonsense one night, signal bouncing like I was being surrounded. Then I saw the woman. She was standing in the middle of the road, staring at me. I swerved and hit a ditch. Next thing I know, I wake up in my cab like nothing happened. But I ain't driven at night since. He looked at me long and hard. "You got out," he said, "but you ain't free." That stuck with me. Still does. Because the truth is, Red was right. I ain't free. I may be out of the tunnel, away from that meat hallway and the things that cling to the ceiling like regrets. But every night when I pull off and kill the engine, I hear her breathing, quiet, steady from the back of the cab. And every morning, there's a new handprint on the window. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's big, sometimes it's pressed to the inside. I keep a logbook now, not for dispatch, for me. To keep track of the weird stuff, the dreams that ain't mine, the voices on the radio that call me by name before I've keyed the mic, the smell of burnt hair and rotten leaves that shows up even with all the vents sealed tight. Last week, I passed a truck flipped upside down on the side of the highway, and when I slowed to look, the guy inside looked just like me. Same hat, same jacket, same face. Dead eyes staring at the sky like he saw something coming. I didn't stop. I couldn't, not cause I was scared, but because I knew it wasn't real. Not completely. That wreck was for me. A message, a preview, a reminder. I keep moving, always west. Changing routes, changing loads, trying to stay unpredictable. But deep down, I know the road don't care where you go. It knows your name. It knows your truth. And one day, when I'm tired or slow or think I've finally outrun it, it'll open up again, just a little crack hand, whisper me back in. And when the day comes, friend, I don't think I'll make it out a second time. So if you're listening to this and you ever see a woman on the side of the road pale skin, broken jaw. Eyes black as oil. You don't stop. You don't honk. You don't even look. Just keep driving and pray to God that road don't open up beneath your wheels. Because once it does, you ain't just driving freight anymore. You're hauling your own damn soul. And that's the part they never tell you about this job. The thing the books and the training and the dispatchers never mention. It ain't the long hours, the bad coffee, the loneliness. That's all part of it, sure. But the real danger is the miles between towns. That stretch of dark between headlights where the road goes quiet and your thoughts start talking back to you. That's where it waits. Not just the woman, not just the hollow stretch, but the thing behind it all. Something older than any map, older than pavement. Something buried deep beneath the highways we laid, waiting for folks like me to forget we're human for just a second. 'Cause that's all it takes. 1 second. One moment you ignore a cry for help. One moment you choose the deadline over the detour. One choice. That's how it gets you. I started seeing the signs more frequently now. Not the state line ones. Not next rest stop 35 miles. I mean the other ones. The hand-carved wooden ones. Hidden in the trees. Hanging from bridges. Spray-painted under overpasses where no one looks. You've been seen. The road remembers. Turn back. And then last night I swear on everything I passed my own truck. Same model, same color. Same trailer number. Parked right on the shoulder like a mirror left on the side of the world. I slowed down and looked inside as I passed, and sitting behind the wheel was me. Eyes closed, hands on the wheel, breathing, like I was waiting. For what? I don't know. I didn't stop. I didn't even blink. Just kept driving. But all night, I couldn't stop thinking, if that was me, then who the hell am I now? You ever think about that? You ever wonder if you're still the same person you were before you made that one bad decision? 'Cause I do, every damn day. And lately, it feels like I ain't driving away from my past anymore. It feels like I'm driving toward it. Like every load I haul is just taking me closer to something I left behind. Buried beneath miles of bad memory and worse silence. There's this truck stop out in Nebraska, no name, no lights. Just a single pump and a diner that never looks open, but always has one booth lit up. I found it once, middle of the night. GPS said I was driving over empty fields, but there it was. I pulled in, looking for gas, maybe coffee, maybe a break. Inside, the waitress didn't say a word, just poured me a cup, slid me a slice of pie that looked fresh despite the place smelling like dust and rot. And then she said, "The woman's looking for you again." I didn't ask which woman. I already knew. I left without eating the pie, got back in my rig and drove 30 hours straight, crossing 3 state lines just to put distance between me and that booth. But I swear, sometimes I taste the pie in my mouth when I'm half asleep at the wheel, like it followed me. Like it marked me. I know it sounds crazy. I know how this all sounds. But if you've made it this far, if you're still listening, then maybe you've seen something too. Maybe you felt it, that itch at the back of your neck when the road gets quiet. That flicker in your side mirror that's never there when you look straight on. Or maybe, just maybe, you passed someone on the side of the highway once and kept going. Told yourself someone else would stop. If you did, start counting the signs. Start listening to the silence, because the road don't forget, and it sure as hell don't forgive. One day, you'll find yourself on a stretch you don't remember driving onto, with no towns, no exits, and a moon that don't quite look right. And when that happens, don't stop, don't speak, don't acknowledge the figure in your rear view. Just keep moving, and hope that she ain't already in the cab. So I kept on driving, mile after mile, engine humming steady like a prayer I wasn't sure was being answered anymore. The sun started rising somewhere behind me, spilling orange light across the horizon, painting the highway gold, like the world was trying to pretend it hadn't just shown me hell the night before. But I wasn't fooled, not no more. The world don't just go back to normal after a thing like that. You don't unsee what you've seen. You don't unfeel the breath of a dead woman on your neck. You don't forget the sound of your own voice, crying out of someone else's throat. My rig rumbled along, and every now and then I'd catch something moving in the corners of the mirrors, just flickers now. Like whatever been following me was getting tired of chasing, or maybe it was just waiting. I stopped at a way station just outside Colorado, and the officer there looked me over real slow. He didn't ask for my logbook, didn't check my papers, just leaning through the window, looking past me into the sleeper, and said, "You, all right, driver." I wanted to laugh or scream, but instead I nodded and muttered, "Long night." He gave me this strange little smile, not cruel, not kind, just understanding, like he knew, like maybe he'd seen the road blink too. Maybe he'd heard the voice over the CB that sounded like him. I pulled out and got back on the highway, tires singing against the pavement like they were trying to warn me of something. That's when I made the choice. I'd been driving my whole life, always forward, always running from one town to the next like I could outrun the things behind me. But not today. Today, I pulled off at a quiet rest stop. No other trucks, no noise, just me and the wind. I parked the rig, climbed out, and stood there with the engine ticking cool and the birds chirping like the world was still sane. I reached into the glove box, pulled out my old Polaroid, the one of me and my brother standing next to our first truck, grinning like idiots. He was gone now, been gone a long time. He was the one who taught me how to drive, told me to respect the road, told me the highway gives, but it also takes. I walked out behind the lot where the trees pressed, close and quiet, found a flat stone, set the photo there, and I said, "I'm sorry," not just to him, to all of them. Every voice I ignored, every cry I didn't answer, every sign I sped past. I left the photo there, letting the wind take whatever part of me was still worth saving. Then I turned, walked back to the cab, and climbed in. I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat there, watching the mirror. And this time, she wasn't there. Not in the sleeper, not in the glass, just me. My reflection, tired, worn, but me. For now, I know the road ain't done with me, not by a long shot. One day soon, I'll hear the call again. The CB will crackle with a voice that ain't on any channel. The sky'll go red, the signs'll change, and the hollow stretch will open like a wound across the highway. And when it does, I won't run. I'll drive straight into it, headlights burning, hand steady on the wheel, not out of fear, not out of guilt, but because I know now some roads ain't meant to be escaped. Some roads are reckonings, and mine ain't over yet. So if you're out there listening, watch the shoulder, mind the signs. And if you ever hear a voice on the radio whisper your name when no one's talking, don't answer. Don't speak. Just keep on trucking. Because once the road's got your name, it never lets go.